Good Wednesday evening, and welcome to This and That, the podcast. I'm your host, Joe Gillaway, and along with my partner, Bill Bostic. Bill, back in the saddle, buddy. You took
Yeah.
last week off.
Yep.
We're going to bring you guests and topics you'll find both fun and captivating from the worlds of local politics, arts and leisure, pop culture, and beyond. And let's let everybody know who our This and That, the podcast sponsors are the Robert H. Hoke American Legion Post 272, Team PA AAU Basketball, and Rickabaz Electric. Thank you to these great local businesses for their continued support of our little podcast. We really appreciate it. Okay, Bill, how are you tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Especially since I took some days off of work to work on other projects and get some rest. So I'm doing fine. I also want to shout out to Carl, who I met at the coffee house, St. Thomas Roasters Coffee House. He's a new resident of the area, lives behind Weiss, in one of those developments. And also wanted to shout out to Andy Linker, who we missed during the baseball playoff season to get him in here. So I just wanted to say hi to Andy.
We got to have him back sometime.
Yeah.
What a great guest he was.
Yeah.
He might, he's up there. We've had a lot of really bright, knowledgeable rules, but he's up there, man, and near the top. That guy he's brilliant. So yeah, when you talk to Andy again, tell him I said hello, please.
Yeah, I'll have to do that for Christmas.
Bill, what episode number is this? Are you keeping track?
Yeah, I checked with my staff, and they told me it's 37.
They are correct, Bill. 37. And why do we say that? I just want to keep you on your toes, Bill. And that's a lot of episodes, man. It
doesn't seem like that many.
No, but man, it's been fun, and we've met a lot of really, really great people. Smart, fun, funny, talented, and it's going to be no exception to that tonight for sure. So this is the People's Podcast, Bill, by the way, just a reminder. And it's the People's Podcast because we allow the people to contribute to the show. We have a comments field. You can come in and ask questions of the guest or make comments, of course. And then we do also encourage you, if you have some ideas as to who you'd like to see come on or what kind of topic you'd like to have discussed, we are all ears, and we will do our best to bring that to you and the other viewers.
Yeah, no, tonight's show, Joe, is courtesy of Lisa Hoyer.
Yes, it is.
Helping out with Lingelstown Gazette, and she was happy to meet with Stuart Malina recently, and so thanks, Lisa, for the help.
I think she hit a home run, a grand slam with this recommendation. So upcoming, how about this? We're all over the map here, Bill, as we're trying to be. Next week, we have PIAA, retiring PIAA Executive Director, Dr. Bob Lombardi. Awesome guy. I think he's been there 13 years with the PIAA. Lots of great changes have been made over those years. So, and he's just retiring. He's going to be done. He said he's reached an age that he just feels like it's time to turn the reins over to somebody else there. So we're looking forward to that. That'll be next Thursday, a week from tomorrow night. And then we know who the guy in the middle is, right? Eric Epstein.
I count
Epstein. Epstein. I'm Stein. Oh, man.
Yeah, and I count Eric as a great friend. So I'm looking forward to being with him on the air.
I got to stop that Epstein thing, Bill. Epstein.
Well, we have the thing going on in D.C., and that guy says the Steen part.
All right. Well, so I put the Central Dauphin School District logo up, but he's a lot more than that. He's a board member, but he's a lot more than that. And then I just got a confirmation from Chris Handles Franklin. He's a Susquehanna Township grad and a longtime member of the Harlem Globetrotters. We haven't gotten a date for him yet, but this should be interesting. And now he has a philanthropic endeavor, Handles Foundation, where he's out in the community trying to help. I would say disadvantaged and less privileged children and communities. So it's exciting. And you interviewed Chris Franklin.
I did, yeah, at St. Thomas Roasters.
7-8 years ago. That was a while back.
Very accommodating gentleman.
Yep. So that's the next three. And man, how about that? It's truly this and that. We're all over the map, and that's by design. We want to have all the. We don't have any women there though, so it's been a while.
You better get with it, Joe.
And me, I'm not. Yeah, it's just incidental or coincidental that we haven't had a female guest in a while. But our disclaimer before we bring our guest in is the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the participants who voice them and do not necessarily reflect the positions held by this and that the podcast as an entity, Bill or myself, or the sponsors who support the show. So we're clear now, Bill.
Yeah, I'm still amazed that you wrote that. I mean, that's very, very much like a lawyer sound.
Is it really? Okay. All right. So I don't know. It wasn't that tough. So let's bring in our guest.
All right.
And let me just let the people know who it is first. This is I think he's in his 25th year, about a quarter of a century, the Harrisburg Symphony Orchestra conductor, music director, and I'm going to use another word here or term. I'm going to ask his permission first, but his name is Stuart Malina. Mr. Malina, Stuart, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm a little bit nervous about what other thing you're going to call me.
Maestro.
Maestro.
Okay.
You could certainly call me Maestro.
All right. I've spent 59 years of my life not being able to call anybody Maestro. And I looked it up the other day and I thought, I want to make sure. I didn't think it was like I figured it was okay, but it said that it's a title of respect. So
it is. It's an honorific, and it's a little strange because the meaning of it is master.
Yes,
and that is a little bit uncomfortable. But there are musicians that I'll tell them again and again, call me Stuart, and they just want to call me Maestro, and that's okay.
I like the word, Bill.
I do too.
What's that?
Bill, I think you were trying to say something there.
No, I was going to mention about the Maestro part. I did some checking, like you, to make sure that it was okay to use that. I was pretty sure that Stuart qualifies and more than qualifies to be a Maestro.
Okay, so let's get into this. Stuart, I do a lot of preparation, as I should. I'm not looking for credit, but I felt like I had to prepare even more for this. I'm used to a lot of other kind of genres of like I said, pop culture. This doesn't fit in. This fits into arts and leisure as far as I'm concerned.
Sure,
it is an art for sure. Symphony music, any music is. But I started preparing a couple of days ago, and I thought, oh no, what did I get myself into here? I really have to start from scratch,
Yeah.
And it was so enjoyable.
I'm glad to hear
so
that.
Gratifying. I learned so much about you and about what you do and orchestra music, in general. So it was a lot of fun getting ready for this, and it's kind of beyond my wildest dreams to be given the opportunity to do this, and I mean that. We'll get to this later, but you're a Tony Award-winning conductor, and this is just awesome. So thanks again.
Well, thanks. I'm truly happy to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
So anyway, we're going to start the way we typically do because we want to know a little bit about you and why you are who you are and what you are. Where were you born and raised? Where'd you spend your formative years, and who lived in your house growing up?
Well, I grew up in the New York area, born in New York City. The first 4 years I lived in Queens, in Flushing, near Shea Stadium. I'm a lifetime Mets fan. I can't escape that. And then at age 4, my parents moved to Scarsdale, New York, which is a lovely community about 25 miles north of the city in Westchester County. And I grew up in a house with my older sister, who's a couple of years older than me, and a younger brother who's about a year and a half younger than I am, and my parents. And I was there for my entire youth up until I graduated high school.
What brought you to the Central PA, Harrisburg area?
The job.
Okay.
Conducting is one of these fields where there are few jobs and a lot of people who want them. And back in the year, I guess it was 1999, when I applied for this job, to be honest, I wasn't even sure that I wanted the job because I didn't know anything about the orchestra or about the community. But as soon as I heard the orchestra, I was really kind of blown away and knew that this was something that I wanted. And so, my wife and I have always said that we could be happy anywhere. We're just happy people.
That's wonderful.
And as it turns out, this community is a wonderful place to live. And I feel very lucky that I landed here.
You just answered like question number 14, by the way. I was going to ask you.
I'm 3 steps ahead of you, Joe.
You are. I was going to ask you how you felt about living in the Harrisburg area, and you've been here for a long time. And I know that I know people that know you, and that they really love you. They love you and your wife and your family. Yeah. So
I can talk a little more about it. I mean, I think
sure.
that when I first moved here, I was a little bit taken aback by how little self-respect a lot of the people who lived here had. that I seem to like Harrisburg a lot better than the people who had spent
Okay.
many,
Wow.
many years here. But I think that's changing. I think people are realizing that, especially these days, finding a nice community and a beautiful community on a lovely river
Mhm.
with lots of good restaurants, wonderful culture of all sorts, popular
Absolutely.
and snooty.
Right,
That and not only that, but affordable.
Right.
It's really quite a wonderful place. I'm glad we raised our kids here.
And
And
Stuart, we are right in the middle of, or close to the middle of Pittsburgh, Washington D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York City, the shore, the Jersey Shore. It's all right around us. You know what I mean?
and that really translates very directly into the quality of our orchestra, because our players come from all of those major markets:
Mhm.
Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington, New York. Some come from Pittsburgh, and it's just a beautifully geographically located
It is.
place
It
without
really is.
any of the hassles of being in a big city.
So, what was your introduction to music in general? Like when I was a kid, I'm listening to the Temptations and Led Zeppelin, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. You know, the later Frankie Valli stuff when the Four Seasons were big. And I'm sitting there yesterday when I was prepared, thinking, I wonder if he was listening to orchestra music when he was 5.
Mm.
Was
Well,
that the case?
Well, not really. So when I was little, I mean, my parents are both music lovers.
Okay.
Neither of them is a professional musician, but we had music playing all the time. And my dad and mom's particular passion was opera. So we heard a lot of opera in the house, and I did really fall in love with opera at an early age. Not quite at age 5. What I did love from the earliest age is musical theater.
Mhm.
And anything ranging from Gilbert and Sullivan to Broadway shows. And that was really a lot of what we listened to when I was in my early years, up till about, I don't know, 13 or 14. And then at that point, I started listening more to opera, and I developed into a very good pianist, and I was making my own music, and so that was also quite lovely. But I was lucky to be surrounded by opportunities to see very high quality music. We went into the city a lot, went to the New York Philharmonic, to Broadway shows, to the Metropolitan and New York City operas. And so I was very fortunate to have those opportunities, and they were formative. They certainly led me indirectly into what I'm doing now.
When was the first time you held a musical instrument in your hand, or sat in front of one and played it, tried to play
Well,
it?
we had a piano in the house, so I would say probably when I was 1 or 2 years old. I'm sure I came and banged on the piano like all little ones do. I started studying piano when I was 5 years old,
Wow.
and I was a pretty good pianist through elementary school. When I got to middle school, I discovered that I was actually kind of a prodigious sight reader, that I could look at music and play it directly without having to translate note for what my fingers are doing. And that really kind of redirected my life as well. It gave me a lot of opportunities to play for school shows, for accompanying instrumentalists, accompanying singers. And then eventually in high school, I started being the music director of all of the theatrical productions. And that's what led me into conducting.
So you had the bug at an early age.
Oh, yeah, sure. I loved music. I wasn't planning on being a musician until probably age 21 or so. I was thinking that I'd go to law school. I entered college planning to be a math major, but it didn't last long. It turned out to be incredibly boring, and so
that's so awesome, though. Growing up, I listened to all kinds of music, but we had our Host Inn, which is now out in Lindell Road there. I forget what it's called now. We had a dinner theater there.
You're kidding me.
And no, it was good. It was just like an off Broadway,
Yeah,
and
nice.
they were really good. And my mom worked there part-time, so we could go see each show one time.
Yeah.
And I caught the bug too. I mean, I like pop music and all that stuff, rock and roll and R&B, but I had every album. I had Oklahoma, Jesus Christ Superstar, Fiddler on the Roof. I'd walk around. My friends are like, "What are you singing, man?"
Well, I think we're kindred spirits then, because that was me when I was younger.
Sunrise, sunset, and my friends are like, "What are you singing?" I'm like, "It's Fiddler on the Roof, man." So,
what's funny is when I got to college, then I discovered pop music, and my roommates were very happy to introduce me to Elvis Costello and Bruce Springsteen and all of the pop music that I still love today.
Kind of backwards, right?
Yeah, I guess. Most people go the other way. They hit age 55 and realize that they want to listen to classical music.
Bill, you want to jump in, bud?
Yeah, I think you sort of mentioned it just a couple minutes ago, Stuart. But when did you realize that you wanted to be a conductor? You know,
Well,
instead of being in the orchestra itself.
it kind of developed naturally.
Okay.
And it started out when I was being the music director of shows in like ninth, 10th, 11th grade. I would do it from the piano,
Okay.
nodding my head in rhythm to keep things together. But I was always playing. Senior year, we did a production of Guys and Dolls, and that was the first time that I actually stood in front of an orchestra with a baton
Okay.
and led it. But really, it was when I got to college and I started conducting operettas and operas that I started really getting the bug for this is what I want to do with my life rather
Okay.
than what's just kind of fun to do as an avocation.
The other question I have for you is, growing up, you had this musical inclination to get involved in music.
Yep.
And I know guys like you did some work with Billy Joel, but Billy Joel had a tough time because the kids in the neighborhood didn't like the guys that were into music. Did you have any issues with the bullies who thought that was too feminine or whatever to be involved in
Just
music?
nerdy, maybe not feminine, Bill, but maybe nerdy.
No, here's the thing. I had trouble with a few bullies, but it had nothing to do with music. It was just
Okay.
that I was a wimp and was the worst athlete, that was in my class. And
Okay.
so, yeah, of course, kids are kids, and all of these people are nice guys who just, when they were little, they had a bullying streak. But no, I would say quite the opposite. That if you ask the folks who I went to school with, they would say, "Oh, how cool it was to have someone who was a musician in our class, someone who was talented that way." And I got that kind of reinforcement and validation really from a very early age. There was never a sense of like, "Oh, you're an outsider." It was more like, "Hey, come and play for us. Let's sing together. Let's have fun."
That's awesome. That's what life's supposed to be all about.
Yep.
It really
Yeah.
is.
I just have one other question, Joe, real
Yeah,
quick.
please.
You mentioned about being a Mets fan.
Oh, yeah.
What I remember, like when the Mets beat the Orioles in that one World Series.
1969.
But the thing is, I always thought for some reason Shea Stadium was out on Long Island. You're saying it
Well,
wasn't?
It is right at the intersection of Queens and Long Island. So
Okay.
you're about 10 minutes from the Long Island Expressway at Shea Stadium.
Okay.
It's where all the highways intersect. You can go one way to go to LaGuardia Airport, one to go to Kennedy Airport, one to go to the city, and one to go out to Long Island.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that.
Oh, no problem.
So, how about early mentors? I mean, who does an aspiring conductor look up to? It would be somebody that's foreign to Bill and myself. We would probably look up to maybe an athlete or a rock and roll. But did you know about conductors at a young age?
I saw a lot of conductors, but I wouldn't say any of them were idols of mine because I really wasn't seeing myself in that position when I was a child. If you had asked me, if you had said to me, you have to make a career in music, what would it be? I would say, well, I'll be a music director on Broadway. And so, I would say maybe, the people who are creating Broadway shows in a general sense. But my early mentors were my piano teachers, and they were phenomenal. I had one primary teacher for my entire youth, again from 5 to 18, and she really guided my musical growth in a tremendous way. And her husband also was a pianist, and he taught music theory to me on a weekly basis. And the two of them were kind of like my musical parents, and that was really lovely and lucky for me.
Were they around to watch you start having success?
They were, but my teacher, she died about 5-6 years ago, sadly, and he's still alive. He's over 90, and he sometimes comes to see me conduct, which is really quite lovely.
But what a blessing for them and for all of you. But for them to be able to watch you succeed, and really they were there
great.
when this was hatched, basically.
I think you're right. And I think it is a source of great pride. I mean, they've had other really talented students who have done wonderful things, but it gives me great satisfaction. Any way that you can pay back these people that gave to you when you were younger, it's a really lovely thing to be able to do.
So did you have like a first big break, or Harrisburg? That was your first symphony that you conducted. Is that correct?
No. So when I got out of school, so I graduated from college, and then I did 4 years of graduate school in conducting.
Okay.
And when I got out of conducting school, it was incredibly difficult to get a job. I applied for every job that was out there and got the same rejection letter, 30, 40 times. My big break came, I met the fellow who was the music director of an orchestra called the Orchestra of St. Luke's, and they're out of New York City. They're one of the best freelance orchestras in the world. And this fellow, Michael Feldman, it's kind of an interesting story. He was introduced to me because the chairman of his board of directors was married to a woman who played tennis with my mom. And so my mom, much against my will, I was very like, oh, Mom, why are you doing this? Don't push me that way. But she arranged for me to meet with him, who then introduced me to Michael, the artistic director of the orchestra. And he and I got along really well, and he gave me amazing opportunities right away. That was a great break. But even more so, one of the jobs I got rejected from was to be assistant conductor of the Charleston Symphony Orchestra in South Carolina. And he happened to know the music director there. They had gone to college together. And so he called up David, who was the music director of Charleston, and said, you need to see this guy. He's good for this job. And David said, well, we've already sent out our 12 semifinalist letters. We don't have any space for him. And the day before the audition, someone canceled, and they called me, and I came in and I got that job. Wow. And that was my first conducting job as an assistant and then associate conductor of that orchestra. And then I got a job in Greensboro, North Carolina, conducting the Greensboro Symphony Orchestra.
That's right.
A very fine orchestra.
Yeah.
And so and after that, I came here in 2000.
Okay. So talk about, let me throw this up here. That's the Harrisburg Symphony Orchestra.
Yes, it is.
In the Forum. To me, Stuart, that alone, just looking at that, walking into that arena, that's art in itself. I mean, that's just a beautiful looking orchestra,
it's a spectacular hall.
It is. It really is. It's spectacular. And then we'll zoom in a little bit there.
Oh, the bearded one.
That's the bearded one. Yeah. I thought when you jumped in earlier, I thought I had the wrong guy. I was like, yeah, because most of the photos I saw, you had a beard.
One of the great satisfactions for me is when we have guest artists, and pretty much to a person, they come to the first rehearsal, walk through the door from the backstage room onto the stage, and they go like this.
Okay.
And they say, you perform here? This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And there is something just wonderful about being in this. It is a work of art, the Forum, with the stars and constellations on the ceiling and all of the woodwork and columns.
Everything about that, it's just beautiful.
It's beautiful.
It's a work of art. And it's a work of art unto itself. And then when you add the orchestra and the way everybody's kind of lined up there, and it's just phenomenal looking. I love that.
An orchestra is kind of an amazing beast, and there's nothing quite like it. All these different people and instruments joining together to make something that's so extraordinarily beautiful.
So you, what happened then that you ended up in Harrisburg? We have to ask that.
Yeah, so I was in Greensboro, North Carolina, and very happily there. I was with that orchestra for 6 years total. And after my fourth year, I got a call from the then executive director of the Harrisburg Symphony, whose name was Stuart Weiser. And Stuart, before he came to Harrisburg, had been the executive director of the Winston-Salem Symphony Orchestra, which is literally 20 minutes from Greensboro. Okay. And so he knew me, he knew what I was capable of. My predecessor here in Harrisburg left the orchestra, and they were looking for a music director. And I was asked by Stuart Weiser whether I would apply for the job. And I'm a little embarrassed to say that my initial feeling was like, hey, it'll be a good guest conducting gig. Right. I don't want to move. I certainly don't want to move to the middle of Pennsylvania. Who knows anything about Harrisburg? I knew it was the capital. Right. I had been to Hershey Park many, many years before. So that's why I applied. And two things interesting happened. One is that my audition was supposed to be in February of the year 2000. And about 5 or 6 months before, it became apparent that my wife was going to give birth to our first child in February of 2000. So I took myself out of the search. I called up Stuart and I said, thank you for the opportunity, but I really can't do this. I'm not going to miss the birth of my my daughter. And so what then happened was one of the players in the orchestra who I had worked with down south said, "You really want to see this guy," and they arranged to switch me out with the music director's concert at the end of the season. And so I ended up coming in May and getting the job. But as I said a little bit earlier, is when I first started conducting this concert that was my audition, the very first downbeat, it was clear that this was something quite extra special. The sound of this orchestra is really not what one expects from a regional orchestra. The players are just phenomenally great, and I felt like I was conducting the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. Yeah. It was magnificent, and in that moment, the switch turned, and it went from like, "Oh, this will be a fun week," to "I really want this job.
This could be home. This could be my home." Yeah.
This is a really good place.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, kind of switch gears just a little bit here. You hold the degrees, college degrees from Harvard University, Yale School of Music, and Curtis Institute of Music in Philadelphia, which is very prestigious, along with an honorary doctorate from Lebanon Valley College.
Yep.
How did formal education contribute to your success as a conductor?
That's really actually a great question. I'll add a little bit of an aside that my daughter, when she was applying to college, was so angry because she had seen a list of the 10 most difficult colleges to get into in the country, and I had gone to 3 of them. So
wow,
that was my moment of being able to smugly smile self-satisfactorily.
Hey, she's done pretty well for herself, though. We'll get into that later.
Yes, exactly. She's doing great.
Yeah.
But I'll divide this into 2 parts. The graduate school part, I mean, directly impacts every single day that I do my job. The 4 years that I spent, the 2 at Yale and the 2 at Curtis, that was a vocational training. That was where I learned how to be a conductor. And my teacher was a very difficult teacher. He could be nice, but most of the time he was extremely tough and sometimes downright nasty. But the pedagogy was incredible, and the technique and score study skills that I got from him, I truly use every single day. So that I can't even say anything more than those 4 years were incredibly important in my career. My years at Harvard, I'm very glad that I went there, but it wasn't really because of the academics that I got there. I was not the most intense student when I was there. My academics became secondary to all of the extracurricular things that I had there. But the extracurricular activities at Harvard were fairly unique. There aren't a lot of colleges that have those kinds of opportunities for what I was interested in doing. So I started conducting operetta and then operas. I was the music director of an a cappella singing group that I did many of their vocal arrangements for. I sang in a mixed choir. I was the music director for shows. And I was kind of an arts jock. But the academics were almost incidental. I mean, I did fine. I took courses. I did the work that I needed to do, but only the work that I needed to do. I was not going to be an academic, but I'm happy I went to Harvard because of those opportunities, and also because of the friends that I made there are extraordinary. I mean, in my class at Harvard, the past Secretary of State was in my class. And so, you know, it was that kind of group of people, just amazing overachievers who I got to spend 4 years with.
So I want to ask you a couple questions that actually that Lisa wanted us to ask, and one of them was, and these are great questions, by the way, Lisa. I know you're watching, so thank you.
Hello, Lisa,
for contributing to tonight's show. How has this Harrisburg Symphony grown or morphed or evolved during the time that you've been there, Stuart?
Well, I think that the biggest way that I've noticed the change is just the way that the community regards us. Whenever you have an orchestra, the people who come to the orchestra know about it, love it, feel ownership for it. But I've always said that the surest sign of a successful orchestra is if you ask the community at large, what are the things about the community that they're proud of or that they think are terrific, they'll mention the symphony. And I think we're getting very close to that place where most people, even if they don't come, know that we exist and know that we're very, very good. And that's really super special. Our budget has grown tremendously. I mean, it's grown almost by 3 times since I've been here. Part of that obviously is inflation, but we're paying our musicians well, and the artistic quality keeps getting better and better. So, I'm particularly proud of the pop series, because when I came here, it was very much faltering, and the board was on the brink of canceling the season altogether, and really did build it back into something super special through a wonderful sponsorship with Capital Blue Cross, who have been staunch supporters of the pop series since 2001, I think. And so, but in a lot of ways, I think that it's become a larger organization, larger staff, a more professional operation. All of the various parts of the organization, from the board to our auxiliary support group to our volunteers to the orchestra itself, keep getting better and better. And then the last thing that I'll mention, and this is one that's a little bit abstract, but something I'm very proud of, is we've developed a culture in the orchestra of mutual respect. We don't have labor disputes, because anything that is going to come up is addressed long before it becomes a problem. Right. And this is fairly rare in the world of orchestras, to have an orchestra that really feels that the management has their backs and wants to do the best for them.
You can spend all your time doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. That's get closer as musicians and improve, and that you don't have to worry about the kind of side distractions.
That's right. And so morale is extremely high, and a happy orchestra just plays better than an unhappy orchestra.
I can imagine so. Bill, you want to jump in, bud?
Yeah, I just had a question, because I cover news throughout Pennsylvania for state government type people, providing so pull it all together. So you run into news about orchestras. Now, does your orchestra, are they unionized, or they are? So we
are 100% professional, and we are a union orchestra. Okay. So it's with all the things, the good and difficult.
Well, it speaks very highly of what you're doing there, that you don't have those disputes. So that's great. And the other question related to labor, I'm just wondering. I'm not that schooled on orchestras, but I do know that people come from all around to play at a place like Harrisburg. Now, what is attracting people to your symphony, Stuart?
I think there are several things. I think the number one thing that attracts the musicians is that it's good work. It pays well. We give them travel reimbursements to come here. We put them up at a hotel. They're treated respectfully. But I think once you get past that basic, like, we want it because we're trying to make a living as musicians and it's a job, they like the music that I program. I tend to program interesting music that they don't necessarily play every other week with the other orchestras they perform with. They like working with me. They like the environment that I create in rehearsals. And I think that they enjoy the whole vibe of Harrisburg and the whole vibe of the orchestra being here. Okay. Sometimes I felt that it almost feels more like a music camp than a professional job, because they come here, they leave their lives behind. They have a weekend to spend with their friends that they see a few times a month. They go to rehearsal. We work very, very hard during rehearsal. Then they go out and have a beer and have dinner. They stay at the hotel. They're all at the same place. The next day they come rehearse again, and then we all hang out afterwards. It's just kind of it's a really lovely and I think very healthy environment to make music.
Yeah, and the last question I have before I throw it back to Joe is, when it comes to practicing rehearsals, people from all over the place. So how do you pull that off, that you can get together and do enough work that your shows are great?
Well, you count, first of all, on the ability of the players, and their job is to come to the first rehearsal ready to play their parts. They're not learning them on the job. We get music to them several weeks before, and they're supposed to know their music when they arrive here. We have 4 2.5-hour rehearsals. Generally, for a Masterworks concert, we'll rehearse Thursday night, 2 rehearsals on Friday, and a rehearsal for Saturday morning. And then we perform Saturday night and Sunday. So it's extremely compact. Okay. And do I wish we had more rehearsal? Of course. I think if we had 20 rehearsals, I'd wish we had more rehearsal. Yeah. And so, but one of the lovely things about what I do is that there's always a point A, which is where we start, and point B is dictated. At the end of the last rehearsal, that's as far as we get to rehearse. Okay. And the orchestra just never fails to not only get a lot accomplished during those 4 rehearsals, but then up the ante when they get to the performances.
Right. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention, especially for those who don't have a real grasp of what you do, that you're also the music director.
Yes.
So everything falls under you. You're not just standing there with your baton and leading the orchestra. There's a lot
That
more
is
to
right.
it. And you're also a composer.
Well, and not so much lately. I
No,
studied composing.
but you have composed, right?
Oh yeah, I have composed.
You want to
Absolutely.
talk about those two things so people know that you're kind of the full package? You know?
Sure. Well, first let me talk about the music director conductor.
Sure, absolutely.
The conductor of a concert is the guy that learns the music, rehearses the orchestra, and conducts the performances. And I mean, I could do 3 one-hour shows with you guys to talk about all of those things that are involved in that. Music director means really the artistic buck stops here. Our organization has 2 leaders. We have Matt Herron, who's our executive director. He's in charge of making sure that everything happens for a concert to happen, that the orchestra is hired, that we raise the money that needs to be raised, that the marketing is done, that the board knows their duties and is able to govern the finances of the orchestra, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. My job is to choose the music that we perform, choose the guest artists we perform. I'm responsible for the overall quality of the orchestra. I'm the end of the line as far as hiring and firing people. Now, all of these are not done unilaterally. In programming, I have a committee that I work with that gives me suggestions, and I can use as a bounce board. But in the end, it's going to be my choice. If someone comes to a concert and doesn't like the music that I've chosen, they should blame me. They shouldn't blame anybody else.
Right.
And the same thing with hiring people in the orchestra. We have committees of orchestra players for every audition. And the 5 or 6 of us sit through long days of hearing 80 to 100 people play.
Wow.
But in the end, it's my responsibility. And so I take it very seriously, and I'm very grateful for the help that I get.
So how do you feel about I think for some of us, our exposure to orchestra music is through watching. There's orchestras there's rock bands or pop bands that meld. I guess that's the word. They meld their music in with an orchestra, and I think it's very entertaining.
Absolutely.
And I don't want anybody to think that that's what I think where your limits are by any stretch, because that's just kind of an add-on. That's kind of something that. But let me show the people, if they don't know what I'm talking about here. This is Metallica.
That's a famous recording.
It's a famous one with San Francisco Symphony. Yeah. They did it. This was a long time, a couple of decades ago.
That's right.
And then, of course, so that's heavy metal. Of course, there's Kiss, and you see that the orchestra members are dressed up like Kiss.
Yep.
And then, of course, nobody's gonna forget Sir Mix-a-Lot doing "I Like Big Butts" with with the Seattle Symphony.
Awesome.
Did you know about that with Stuart?
I vaguely remember. I read all the papers, and so I remember that happening, but never done it.
Is it something that do you enjoy that though? Is that something that you think is pretty cool?
I mean, you say that it's not. You don't want to categorize us as doing that. But the truth of the matter is, I think these days orchestras have to be jack of all trades.
Right.
We have our Masterwork series where we're doing standard classical repertoire, the greats and new greats and, the last few hundred years. But we also have a pop series. I mean, last month we did a performance, which was a Whitney Houston tribute show. And it was unbelievable.
Oh, I love that.
The orchestra sounded great. The singer was amazing, but it was with a rock band. And we'll be doing a Billy Joel show at the end of the year. And so all of these things have become part of what we do as an orchestra. And it's a testament again to the, to the flexibility and abilities of the orchestra that they're able to play all of these different kinds of music as well as they do. Let's
segue, since you mentioned Billy Joel.
Yep.
You had an opportunity to work with Billy Joel. I think it was 2003, maybe.
2001. It began in 2001. We opened on Broadway in 2003.
Okay. Oh, you received your Tony Award in 2003.
In 2003. That's right.
So it was the Broadway production of "Moving Out," which was the name of one of his hit songs back in maybe the 80s, I believe. And you and Billy, I guess, each received a Tony for this.
Yeah, you can actually see it in my window. Let me see if I can get. There it is.
Oh, okay.
How about that?
Oh, that's me. It was an amazing day. I mean, there are days that are etched in my memory, and that is certainly one of them.
You know, I've heard it said, you know, certain things that happen in our lives that are like quote unquote beyond our wildest dreams. Was that beyond your wildest dreams?
Oh my God. It was crazy. I got letters and emails from friends of mine who had spent their lives as actors, as playwrights, and some of them extremely successful, saying, you know, I've been doing this for 25 years, and you get the Tony on your first time out.
Right.
But yeah, it was surreal. I mean, it truly was. Like,
But
I felt like I was walking in someone else's life.
well, Stuart, yeah, your role in that, you were conducting an orchestra. Is that what you were doing?
No, actually,
Okay.
it was a very different kind of thing. I helped create the show. So this was a brainchild of the great choreographer Twyla Tharp, who wanted to create a musical. It was really kind of a rock ballet on Broadway. And the music was performed by a live band, you know, the best Billy Joel tribute band you've ever heard.
All right.
And they were above the stage, visible to the
wow.
audience throughout the whole thing. And then the dancers were the greatest dancers in the world, dancing this amazing show. And I had the privilege of helping to craft the plot, choosing the show, the songs, how did the songs flow one into the next, and then orchestrating the songs as well, which is what I won the Tony Award for.
What was Billy's role in this whole thing?
In the early stages, Billy was kind of like, here's all of my CDs, do what you want. I'll come to the workshop production and tell you if I like it or not.
Okay.
He was nothing but supportive, but not very much hands in. After he fell in love with it, and then we went into a Broadway production of it rather than just a workshop production. He had a little bit more involvement. There were some things that he felt very passionate about and was insistent on, and that was beyond welcome. He also, which was an incredible help to me, sent two of the members of his band to help me, because I'm not a rock and roller, in terms of getting the band together, training the band, and they were, you know, as much a part of the production and the music as I was, and I'm grateful to them for it.
I have one other question, Joe, if I could, on
Yeah,
this.
certainly.
Over the last several months, I'm listening to Billy Joel so much. I just enjoy his music. I love watching his live shows. And how does he rate as a piano player? I mean, to me, he doesn't ever seem to miss a key. I mean, it's just it rolls off his fingers.
He's a phenomenal piano player.
He won't tell you that though. I've seen him interviewed. He's very self-deprecating.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a concert pianist. You're not going to see him performing a Rachmaninoff piano concerto, but he plays great, and he doesn't really miss. And you know, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the documentary they just did.
I did twice.
It is fantastic, and you see him when he was young, and what this man was able to do, and just the raw charisma in addition to his amazing talent.
Right.
Billy Joel kind of occupies a place that no one else occupies. I can't think of anyone else who my parents like and my kids like.
That's so accurate. That's so well put. Yeah.
It's just he wrote amazing songs, and I feel privileged to have spent 15 years of my life in that world.
Yeah.
What is it like to be around him?
Well, I can't say that I was close friends with him.
Okay.
There were times at the Tony Awards he was a prince. I remember he did the famous Shea Stadium shows, and right before that he played at Hershey Park.
Okay.
At the stadium there, and I went to that concert, and he saw me there. He was like, "Stuart, what are you doing here?" And my feeling was, I'm surprised he remembered my name.
Oh, yeah. All right.
But in those days, he was really kind of a different person. He was very into drinking at the time. He's now living a clean life, and I think that all things considered, I have nothing but the highest respect for him. I wouldn't trade my life for his any day. The pressures that come with being that kind of a superstar, and the paranoia that comes from people taking advantage of you over the years. I just can't even imagine what it would be like on a daily basis.
And we see a lot of that in the documentary. I encourage
Absolutely.
those who haven't seen it, that
It's
are watching
tremendous.
It's a tremendous documentary.
And I know so many of those people. It was really fun to see my friends, being interviewed on this.
That's fabulous.
Wonderful thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
let's talk about some other Malinas here.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Of course. I'm the proudest papa in the world.
Let's start with brother Josh. I was blown away by how talented the Malinas are. Okay.
Josh is my cousin. He's not my
cousin.
brother.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh no, don't be silly. He might as well be a brother. We grew up 5 minutes from each other. They lived in New Rochelle. We were in Scarsdale, and we spent our lives pretty much together. So he and his sisters and my brother and sister and I, we were a unit. And I'm incredibly proud of Josh. And we still get to spend a lot of time together. My brother and he and I will go to Vegas every so often and just hang out. And we had a golfing trip last year. He's a great
actor,
guy,
right?
He is an actor, and he's a great actor. He's one of the funniest people I know. And he's a real mensch. He's just a good man. He tries very hard to do the right thing.
Okay, so wife Marty. Okay.
Wife Marty is the love of my life. I feel very lucky to be with her.
She's got to be a home run. I mean, with all the success in that house, and I don't know what she does on her own too. I'm not saying that she's just a homemaker, because you could tell us what.
She is a massage therapist, and a fabulous one. We met when she was playing double bass with the Charleston Symphony back in 1991. And we got married in Charleston when we were both down there. And she's my rock. She keeps me steady. It would be very easy to spin out of control with neurosis.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very thankful that I have her.
So let's move over to son Zev.
Son Zev. So Zev is my younger child. I've got 2 children. And Zev is now 23. And he just graduated from Rice University last year, and he is a composer.
Okay.
And he's a fantastic composer. And I've had to talk about the thrills of my life. The other indescribable pleasure is conducting an orchestra when they're playing music that your son has written. And I've been able to do that a couple of times, and it's overwhelming.
Is composer, is that an occupation you can make a living out of?
If you're extremely lucky, I would say most composers of classical music have some other income stream.
Okay.
Luckily, he's a guy of many talents. He's a wonderful pianist himself. I think he could have a career as a music director if he wanted. Mm-hmm. A lot of composers will teach at university level. We'll see how it plays out. He's still very much in the figuring out where he wants to be, what he wants to do. But people are already paying him to write music, and so I'm guardedly optimistic.
It worked for Beethoven and Bach, Bill. They were able to carve out a living.
And there are role models who are out there today who are making livings as a composer.
Do you have any kind of favorite composers? We're talking about the Wagners, the Bachs, the Beethoven. Is there one of those or a couple of those that you really enjoy, or some of those works that you like more than others?
I can give you the pat answer.
Okay.
The pat answer is whoever I'm conducting really has to be my favorite composer in that moment, or I'm not going to be able to do a great job. But that, I think, is an overly simplistic answer. Yes, there's music that just, it appeals to me more than others, but there's so much of it, and of such a wide range. Mm-hmm. There's very little music that Beethoven wrote for orchestra that I don't think is spectacular. I love Tchaikovsky. I love Gustav Mahler's music. I love a lot of the early 20th century masters, Shostakovich, Bartók, and Stravinsky, and those likes. I love the music of Chopin and of Rachmaninoff. I guess I'm a romantic at heart. The operas that I love particularly are like the romantic operas of Verdi and Puccini and all of that. But I tend to wear my heart on my sleeve, and I like music that wears its heart on its sleeve, no matter what it is, whether it's edgy and dark and angry, or exultant and romantic.
Maybe the winter part of the Four Seasons.
I love the Four Seasons. I'm not going to lie. It's not really much to conduct because it can be done usually without a conductor.
Right.
But it's very lovely music, and I also enjoy when I do music of that period, of the Baroque period. I sometimes will do it from the harpsichord, and that's a lot of fun too.
So I had this written down, and I forgot to ask you. You compose from the piano sometime. Is that correct?
Well, I do
I
most
mean,
of
no,
my.
no, no, I mean compose. I
Yeah.
mean conduct. You conduct from the.
Well, I don't. I do it every so often.
Where do you get all these arms? I mean, you have a baton here, and you're
Yeah.
using the other arm, right? And then you
And
have
your
to play
head.
the piano, and your
It's
head.
like-
Okay.
So,
Yeah, how does that all work out?
Well, it's a mixture of two things. Yes, I am actually doing something when I'm conducting from the keyboard, but I'm also trusting a lot when I'm conducting from the
Right.
keyboard. And so the orchestra is listening to what I'm doing and they're responding. So you can think of it as just kind of an expansion of, let's say I was playing with 3 or 4 string players, but now I'm playing with 75 string brass and woodwind players.
Right.
I don't do it a lot because, first of all, it's exhausting, and I don't really have a lot of time to prepare the music to that level. But when I do it, it's extremely satisfying, and the audience loves it. It's because in addition to being great music and showing that I can play the piano, there's this kind of like it's kind of like a dog and pony show. At the same time,
Right.
there's a spectacular aspect to it that's a lot of fun.
So, any plans for collaborating with your son, with Zev?
Absolutely. So we've already done a couple. So for my 20th anniversary, which was 6 years ago, he wrote a piece of music. It was a 20-minute suite for orchestra that we performed. And then this past May, he wrote another piece for the orchestra. This was a 17-minute tone poem that he wrote for my 25th anniversary concert. And they were both very successful, and there will be others. It's a little premature to talk about them, but there are some in the works going forward.
Okay.
I will shamelessly advocate for my son's abilities because I really think he's good. It would be difficult if I didn't,
Right.
and I sometimes wonder, what if he wasn't as talented as he is?
Mm-hmm.
Then I'd be faced with a little bit of an ethical dilemma.
So you're fortunate you're not faced with that, right?
I am very, very fortunate, and at the same time, it is a very tough career, and he's going to need some breaks as well.
Right. So last, and I don't say this rhetorically, but certainly not least, is daughter Sarah.
Daughter Sarah is my eldest.
I read a little bit of her background and her bio, and it's enough to make your eyes roll in the back of your head, what she's accomplished at such a young age.
Yes, she's amazing, and she's a second-year med student.
She's in the medical research field, right?
Well, no, she did medical research for a couple of years after
Okay.
graduating college.
Okay.
And now she's at the University of Maryland Medical School.
Okay.
And doing extremely well and having
Undergrad
a
at Johns Hopkins, right?
Undergrad at Johns Hopkins, and she was the I might as well blow her horn.
No, that's what you're here for. Yeah.
She was the valedictorian of her class at CD.
Oh my, yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. So I probably saw her. I usually go because I work at CD very, very part-time. I'm the public
Sure.
address announcer for the girls basketball team.
Oh, what fun! That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love it. So, but I try to get to the graduations every year because a couple of the girls usually graduate. So I'm sure I've seen her give her.
It was
her
a very
speech.
proud day of a lot. These are the things that make up your pool of memories. But I couldn't be prouder of my 2 kids. I think they're wonderful, and more important than their accomplishments is they're just nice, good people. And that's I'll pat myself on the back with my wife for that one. I think we did a great job with these 2.
I'm going to tell you this, Stuart. That we planned this, I guess, weeks ago now, and ever since I started kind of promoting it, online, and some of my friends or people I just know casually, I'm getting texts and emails and calls. And wait till you meet him. He is such a nice guy. Him and his wife are such great people. I mean, over and over, yeah. So I thought,
really
boy,
nice to hear.
This guy better not let us down, man. But I tell you what, as soon as you came on the screen, even before we went live, you had a big smile on your face. I'm like, I can get it. I get it already.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and we have a friend, Susan George, who
I know Susan.
She's one of them. That she's just.
Oh, it's lovely.
You and Marty, your wife, are just fabulous people. And
right back at her.
Yeah, Bill.
Yeah, I wanted to, before we shut down here, I want to get a little segment here on the Harrisburg Symphony Orchestra, what you're planning, but especially Stuart, the person sort of like me. I haven't been to the orchestra beyond one time. Joe hasn't
Yep.
been to one show.
I'll be
Apparently.
there for sure. I can't
Okay.
wait. Yep.
But what would you say to someone who hasn't attended? Can you give them one or two reasons why they have to check this out before
Sure.
they leave this earth?
Well, the truth is there's so many choices now, and it's so that there are so many, and any given evening you can do any number of things in town, and even more easily you can stay home and watch Netflix any night. There is something that's quite unique about hearing an orchestra, and other than saying it's an overwhelming experience, just the sonic experience of hearing this happening. That certainly is a start. But I also think there's something to be said for these composers that have struggled with trying to make sense of the world and trying to make sense of life. And they do this through music. You go to a museum and you see them trying to make sense of it through visual art.
Right.
You go to theater, the same thing. Music is exactly the same. And there's something, especially these days, quite wonderful about going to a place with people, 1,000 people you don't know. You're all there for one purpose, but you have nothing in common with them other than that. And you create your own community. And it's, in a sense, an escape from the world around you. But in another sense, it's kind of a deep dive into what it means to be a human. Now, that sounds a little bit heady. I also think it's actually just really entertaining. I think my feeling, and this is one of the great frustrations, I honestly feel that if I could get every single person in Harrisburg to come once to hear the symphony, that we would never again, we'd have to double our performances, because I think the response would range from, well, that was cool, but it's not for me. And that certainly is a possibility, to, oh my God, that was life-changing, but everything in between. But I do think that everyone who I know that's come for the first time and has no knowledge of music at all, when I talk to them afterwards, they say, I can't believe how cool that was.
Okay.
They may not come back again, but they had that experience. And I'm one who says, when you have one time through life, you want to try an enormous range of experience. I very much am a proponent for every one of my colleagues in town who's doing the arts. I tell people, if you don't come to the symphony, go to the theater. If you don't go to the theater, go to a chorus. If you don't go to a chorus, go see Steve Rudolph play at jazz. There's so much great stuff going on. But we are one of those really great things. And I think people will come and be incredibly proud that in their community, this quality of music is being made.
Yeah, well, you certainly, the Billy Joel show has.
Oh, sure.
And
and that's the thing, is we've got a wide range. If you're not comfortable coming to classical music, we've got a pop show. We're doing big band this coming weekend. We're doing Billy Joel in May. We're doing movie music in March. We're doing Broadway music in February. There really is something for everybody, and the talent we bring in is top drawer.
I can't wait to come.
I definitely would be attracted more to the pops, but I think after meeting you and hearing all this, I'd like to try the other side too. So.
I would encourage you to. The biggest hurdle that we have is people feeling that they don't know enough, don't understand enough to appreciate an orchestra concert. And I think that's really missing the point. The composers wrote the music for anybody to listen to, and all you need to be willing to do is listen. And then you decide whether you liked it or not. Yeah,
just so you know, with this kind of production we have, this kind of podcast, very few people listen to the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things that I'm trying to get myself to do is carve out the time to break up it in segments. So I'm really looking forward to breaking this last segment up and getting it out to the general public.
Well, thanks.
And the other thing is, just so you know, Joe and I work a lot together. We do have separate operations. On my side, the Lingostown Gazette, about 7,000 or 8,000 people follow it.
Oh, sure.
And I just want to let you know that your organization has access to promote whatever, sending it through me, and I'll get it out to the people.
Thank you so much, Bill. I appreciate that, and we will certainly take advantage of that.
Okay, great.
Well, I believe we're at a great stopping point. I mean, that was just
it went by really fast, guys.
We try to keep it under an hour, and it's not easy, believe me, because we have some great guests, and I'll repeat, talented, fun, funny, and it's hard to keep it under an hour, but we just did, and we got a lot accomplished, and I can't wait to come see you play.
Well, terrific. And anytime, if you want to have me back in another 37 episodes, I'm more than happy. This was really a pleasure.
It may be before that, Stuart.
It was a pleasure to spend this evening with you guys.
Well, thank you so much. Likewise. And so, folks, that's conductor, music director of the Harrisburg Symphony, Stuart Malina, Maestro Stuart Malina. See,
Yeah.
I said it again. And let's thank our sponsors once again: the Robert H. Hoke American Legion Post 272, Team PA AAU Basketball, and Rickabaz Electric. Thanks again to these great local businesses for their continued support. So for Bill Bostic, I'm Joe Gillaway. Thanks again to Stuart Malina, and guys, have a great Wednesday evening.
You too, Joe.
Good night,
Thanks.
everybody.
Good night,
Take care.
Bill.